Oh, what a beautiful evening. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got this magical feeling that everything's going to be okay. Woohoo! Every cloud's got a silver lining. This too shall pass. Things happen for a reason. Shit happens. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. We hear these common quotes, popular sayings all the time about stuff going on in the world. And there's always stuff going on in the world. And I have the right to say that because as an old lady, I've lived many decades on a planet where there's always been tough stuff. And I'm the most optimistic, solution-finding, positive person that I know. But stuff happens. Really bad stuff happens. And I don't have any control over most of it, and I don't think you do either. Since I've been alive, there's been wars, lots of wars. My parents lived through the Second World War, and in some horrific, that's the only word I can think of, horrific circumstances. They survived and they thrived. Both of them came to Australia as refugees. There's 5 of us, 5 children, and they gave us a magnificent life, even though they had been through such a tough time. There's been medical challenges, and an interesting one that we don't hear of very much anymore, but there was a time in my life when there was a thing called HIV/AIDS, and it was a worldwide pandemic, and people were scared to death of dying, and I pardon the pun, but that's exactly what was going on. Now, it turns out that it was a very interesting, the way the information was delivered about AIDS, there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of people that were probably scared for no reason. But we got scared and the world got scared, and that too did pass. As most things do, they shall pass. Now, one of the really cool expressions that I do really like is if it doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger. Now, that's obviously not true for some people, but if you've been through a tough time and you've overcome a challenge and you've become wiser and better and stronger and more logical and got more common sense because of it, is it possible that the next time something comes along, you'll be able to look at that situation with different eyes, with a different headspace? And I have the benefit of age on my side for that one, because I've been through wars, medical challenges, global financial crisis. Planes flew into a building in New York and everyone thought the world was going to end. And now there's people who say that never happened, or that what happened isn't really what happened. And there's a whole heap of stories about that. And I don't know because I wasn't there. What I do know is that when it was reported on the news, the world went into panic mode. And we haven't travelled the world by plane the same ever since. The way we travel by plane completely changed after planes flew into a building in New York. I don't want to take away from the horrible stuff that's happened in the world, because horrible stuff happens every day. What I do know is that we get to choose how we react or respond to it. I'm going to give you another example, because when you live in Australia, which I did for most of my life, floods, droughts, bushfires, snakes, spiders, the stingrays, sharks, they're talked about in the news on a regular basis, and they happen every day, and it just almost in cycle every year. So one year it's bushfires, and the next year it's floods, and the next year it's drought. And in my lifetime, that has been a cycle in Australia. And some people survive and some people don't. But I'm going to be there's a word I don't like to use very often because I don't really know what it means. People can't really explain to me. I'm going to be pragmatic on this. We're all going to die. Life is a terminal experience. And I say that with a smile on my face because I know that, and you know that too. What I also know, which I'm really excited about, and I hope that you are too, is we only die once. We get to live every day. And yes, we could be affected by something that's horrible and affects the whole world. But there's car accidents and people fall off buildings, and there's accidents in the workplace, and people drown, and people get sick and diseased and die, all sorts of reasons why we die. And I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on how can I live and how can I live my life every day. So I will then add in those beautiful expressions, which every cloud has a silver lining. This too shall pass. Shit happens, deal with it. And I think I was taught that as a young child. And that probably became one of my philosophies in life, is that, yes, stuff's going to happen. You do have to deal with it. And if you deal with it effectively and you overcome the challenge, you do get stronger and better and wiser. So it's easy for me, two things. One is I don't watch the news because I think that the news exaggerates and over-dramatises what's really going on. And I share that respectfully because that's what the news has to do. It's their job. The way news media makes money is for people to watch the news. And now with social media and so many other things catching our eyeballs, it's very difficult for the news to get our attention. So if they don't give us doom and gloom and blow things out of proportion, the human race doesn't watch the news. If the news was just happy, happy, happy every day, no one would watch it. So they have to give us car accidents and murders and burglaries and worldwide pandemics and financial crisis, inflation and housing prices and mortgage interest rates. And just as a new really interesting side note, I bought my first house. And it was a very interesting, my first property, a very interesting apartment in Campbelltown in Sydney, a very low socioeconomic area. But I moved there and bought that apartment because my first apartment I bought for $26,000, which at the time was probably a lot of money. But what was really interesting at the time, I had to get special compensation from the bank manager to be able to get a loan because I was only 15 years of age. And the interest rate was 18%. And you'll hear this from people who are old. Back in my day, interest rates were really high. Well, interest rates have gone in Australia, in the Western world, have gone as low as, we had a time a couple of years ago where they were almost at 0%. It was mind-blowing. Some people said you would even have to pay the bank to have your money in the bank. And now people are really scared, concerned, nervous about interest rates going up. And compared to what they were when I bought my first house, for example, and sometimes in the history of my life, we've had interest rates as high as 20%, 25%. If you get a personal loan from some of the interesting finance companies, that can be 35 and 40% interest. And if you are like me, who lived on the Gold Coast for a little bit, there's lots of stories about loan sharks who have interest rates of 50 and 80 and 100%. I'm sharing that with you because is it possible that it's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with what happens to us that could be really important? There's an interesting thing about I've got no money versus how can I make more money? I'm broke versus how can I be financially secure? I can't afford it versus how can I afford it? And is it possible that when you ask different questions, your brain will give you different answers, and your brain is quite capable? If I say to my brain, I can't afford it, my brain will agree with me because I've told it what to do. Yes, Rowie, it's true, you can't afford it, and these are all the reasons why. Versus if I say to my brain, how can I afford it? I really want it. I need it. I have to be able to afford it. How can I afford it? Really interesting that your brain will find a way. You'll work it out. Now, not only will you and your own brain work it out together, but something like how can I afford it? There are literally millions of people in the world who would like to help you afford it. There's financial planners and bank managers and financial experts who will always work out a way. Now, it always comes with you'll either have to work harder or you'll need to invest more wisely or you'll have to do different things with your money. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. There's another one of those cliches. But is it possible that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, that somebody might come and take you away? Because that's called insanity. And that's, again, an interesting quote. Why would we do insane things? And we know that if we keep doing the same thing over and over and we get a certain result, it's not going to change. The thing about finances, career path, health and fitness, relationships, all the big parts of life, Those are all in our control. We get to choose how healthy, fit and strong we are. Now, some people don't get to choose how healthy they are because they've got bad luck when it comes to a disease. Something's happened to them. And I always ask this very special question. Wouldn't it be nice if the medical professionals in the world, the people who love helping people to be healthy and love getting rid of diseases, could invest their time with the people that have had that horrible bad luck, people that were born with a disease, or there's kids that have got cancer and we don't know why. The things that we've got no control over. Our big killer diseases in the world, we have full control over those. Coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, most depression, most cancers. The psychiatrists and the oncologists will tell us that at least 80% of the challenges that we've got with coronary heart disease, cancer, depression, we've got control over that. We can be healthy, fit and strong for the rest of our life. So how about this? Be the person that looks at a situation and says, how can I, rather than I can't? How can I make this better versus it's terrible? Could you be the happy, positive person that even if shit happens, you can still have a smile on your face? Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a magical feeling that everything's going to be okay. Woohoo! Romax, live your life to the max.